I want to tell you all about a weekly tradition I have. Every Tuesday night, I get a bowl of popcorn going, turn down the lights, and sink into the couch to watch a horror movie. A different one each week, mind you. But it's got to be scary. That's the criteria. I know Tuesday seems random, but it's more about nostalgia. See, when I was a kid living with my grandma, Tuesday was when ABC played a movie of the week. These were made-for-TV classics like Night Stalker, The Resurrection of Peter Proud, all kinds of epic thrillers, mysteries, and terrors. Grandma gave me a love of stories. ABC gave me a love of movies, and it was live. You miss it airing on TV, you didn't see it, and we never missed it. Except sometimes we got a late start. See, after dinner on a Tuesday night was prime time for the door knockers, religious groups that went around preaching their cause. In our neighborhood, they came right at 9 when the movie of the week was about to start. As a kid, this interruption felt a little bit like the world ending. I mean, I'd been looking forward to this one thing all week, so missing part of it or delaying things felt pretty wretched. But Grandma admired these visitors, admired that they came in the name of God, and she wanted to show them the respect they deserved. So she'd invite them in, listen, then thank them for their thoughts, and send them on their way. Anyway, it's Tuesday. I'm on the couch, got a big old bowl of popcorn right here. I had just pressed play on my horror pick, Kolchak the Night Stalker. But as soon as the opening credits started to roll, I paused it, because a memory hit me, one I haven't thought about in ages. Come to think of it, I'm not even sure it's real. It's a memory of this one dark, cold Tuesday when I was living with Grandma decades ago, and a knocker came to call. But this guy wasn't there in the name of God. He came in the name of pure evil. You're listening to Run, Fool! I'm Rodney Barnes, and this is episode 64, Devil at the Door. Like I said, this was a long time ago, on a Tuesday night in winter, around 9 p.m. Who am I kidding? I knew it was 8:57 exactly. Since dinner ended, I'd been sitting on Grandma's well-loved couch, staring at the dusty clock on the wall above the TV. I was 8 years old, and let me tell you, those last 3 minutes felt like an eternity, because the movie of the week was about to start. They were playing Kolchak the Night Stalker, the same flick that ignited this memory. Back then, it was my favorite, full of mystery and demons and terror. Kolchak wasn't really Grandma's thing. Actually, none of these were. She didn't need to seek out horror. She'd seen enough in her lifetime. But every Tuesday night, she watched whatever they were playing, right by my side. I knew she liked sitting down with me, sharing a snack and getting into it. It was something we did together, only us. That's what made it special. I liked it because of that too, but also, it's hard to explain. See, we didn't have a lot of money at the time. Pretty much everything in my life was a hand-me-down, used and sad. It was easy to feel like life was a struggle. And it sounds corny, but these films were an escape for me. They transported me to worlds where no one cared what you had, or what you didn't, because there were more important things to think about. So, every Tuesday I disappeared into some adventure, with Grandma by my side. I could hear my grandma making popcorn in the kitchen. The delightful pops of kernels exploding made me even more excited. Pretty soon the stove turned off. My eyes shifted to the clock. 8:58. 2 more minutes. I jiggled my legs, that antsy kind of movement that I hadn't grown out of yet. I watched the commercials rolling around on the screen until Grandma came in, bowl of popcorn in hand. She passed it over to me with a smile asked what we had on the docket that night. I glanced at the clock. 8:59. Before I could tell her about Coal Shack, there was a knock at the door. My heart dropped all the way down to my wool socks, 'cause I knew it was a knocker, coming to tell me and Grandma about God, with no idea my religion started right at 9. Grandma gave me a smile, told me to hang tight. I wanted to tell her no way. If she could do what she wanted, I was starting a movie. But what Grandma said went. We both knew that. She turned the TV off, got up, and headed to the front door. I couldn't see into the foyer from the couch, but I could hear a gust of winter wind blow in. As she swung the front door open, the air instantly chilled. I shivered. I heard Grandma's murmur, followed by a man's voice. I still remember his tone. All these years later, it was sweet and thick, like he had syrup in his mouth. A few seconds later, Grandma came into the living room with a man on her heels. Before I describe this guy, I want to say that my grandma looked strange. She was unsure, confused almost, which was weird for Grandma, the most self-assured woman I've ever known. That was the first thing that made me nervous. The guy that followed her was young, maybe 18. He wore the typical uniform, a fitted white short-sleeved shirt and a skinny black tie, black slacks, a small black backpack set on his shoulders, no jacket in sight, despite the freeze outside. He smiled, apologized for the interruption, but wondered if he could bend our ears. As he spoke, his smile spread wider, and it didn't quite reach his ears. Those stayed dark, sharp, furtive, like they were scanners, independently assessing his surroundings. That was the second thing that made me nervous. Grandma seemed to have brushed off her confusion. She nodded to the man, told him to sit, and asked if he wanted anything to drink. She had water, tea, and orange juice. The young man shook his head, then took a seat in an armchair, facing the couch, where I was. Grandma sat beside me. Together, we stared at this interloper, waiting. The young man nodded to the corner and asked about the display case. Right, so Grandma kept her Bible in a plastic case in the living room, like some kind of artifact. I actually wasn't sure if she'd ever read it. The spine didn't seem like it'd been cracked. I asked her about it once, and she said she didn't need to read it. She had her faith. The Bible was just there to remind her of it. Grandma told the young man the same thing, and he nodded. He said faith must be important to Grandma, especially now, when times were so hard. Grandma glanced at me before replying. She felt like times were just fine. The young man chuckled. He went on to say in his smooth, syrupy voice how difficult it must be to run a household when she was old and tired and had so little. Then he started pointing things out. Her worn-out slippers, the furniture covered in threadbare sheets, trying to conceal that it was all just a mishmash of hand-me-down junk. Didn't she want to provide her grandson, me, with a better life? To get out of the lower middle class? And be able to have things we wanted, not just things we needed. Before Grandma could protest, he held up a hand and said he could give that to us. With an even wider smile, he said, "Ask me how." Me? I was leaning forward because even though I was young, I could see how hard Grandma worked to put food on the table, to find me winter clothes so I didn't get cold. And if this guy was saying he had a quick fix to all that, well, I wanted to know what it was. But Grandma cut in. She told the young man in a firm tone that she already had the comfort she needed. She had family, loved ones. Her heart was full. And then she told the young man to leave. I'd never heard Grandma talk like that to one of these visitors. But before I could ask what was up, the man's eyes glinted in a way that human eyes don't. A sparkle of menacing orange light flickered through them, reminded me of fire. like flames erupting right there on his irises. It only lasted a second, too quick for me to be sure. Then he whispered, "No." It was short and cutting. Something about it made me shiver. I looked at Grandma and realized with a jolt, she was scared. Her hands gripped her knees tightly, knuckles turned white, but she kept her face stoic. Seeing Grandma scared made me scared. But seeing her try to hide it, that terrified me in a way I can't even begin to describe. It's how I knew something was really, really wrong. And even though I didn't know what it was, I knew Grandma and I were in danger. You know how in true crime it's always the little habits that give people away? Well, maybe it's time to ditch one of your own. Fume is here to help with a smarter alternative. It's a flavored air device, not a vape, not a pipe, but something completely different. Fume lets you satisfy the urge to reach for something without nicotine, vapor, or batteries. Plus, it comes with amazing flavors like crisp mint, cinnamon hearts, and peach blush to keep things fresh. Breaking bad habits isn't easy, but whether you're looking to quit vaping or just create healthier habits, Fume makes it easier. Fume has already helped over 400,000 people take steps towards better habits, and now it's your turn. To kick off the new year, use our code RUN to get a free gift with your Journey Pack. Head to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com. Use code RUN to claim this limited time offer today.
The white chocolate macadamia cream cold brew from Starbucks is made just the way you like it. Handcrafted cold foam topped with toasted cookie crumble. It's a sweet summer twist on iced coffee. Your cold brew is ready at Starbucks.
The thought hit me like a cold, wet washcloth to the face, sent my heart racing, from confusion and fear. It's an odd sensation to be terrified, but not know why. In the midst of my terror, I told myself it would be okay. I had Grandma. She wouldn't let anything happen to me. We were a team, and I watched with pride as she rose, fists clenched at her sides, and again told the young man to go. We had a movie to watch. But then, she kept speaking, this time directly to me, except she spoke without turning her head or moving her lips. I just heard her in my head. She said those weekly movies were terrible, and she hated watching them. In fact, she dreaded Tuesday night. I knew something strange was happening here. Grandma's mouth hadn't moved, but it was still her voice, loud and cutting, and it hurt my feelings more than I could say. Then, it happened again. Grandma's disembodied voice rolling through my head, saying I was a burden, always having to be tended to, always asking her to tell me things. Her life would be better if I grew up already. Tears stung my eyes. My breath caught in my throat, aching as it sat there. Even when Grandma finally looked at me and frowned, confused, and also hurt. Her hands flew to her temples. I realized she was hearing stuff in her head too that caused her pain. It was all so bizarre and painful. We stared at one another, shaking, wounded. Our words had somehow damaged one another, without our mouths saying a thing. I glanced back at the man. Just one look at him made me break out in a cold, cold sweat. See, his smile had spread even more, a smear of mirth across his sallow face, almost reaching his ears, like my pain and Grandma's was giving him power. He saw me looking and said, "Something wrong, Rodney?" Well, yeah, something was very, very wrong. And the scary thing was, I still wasn't sure what. That's the thing. Monsters smell like vile death as they stand in front of you, ready to rip your throat open. But this, what was happening here? It was quiet. It was horror and terror in the form of a regular human man who wouldn't leave. Then A sound hit me, so fierce and violent I thought my head was going to split open. Only then I realized it wasn't a sound. It was a voice, Grandma's, spewing some of that same vitriol I'd just heard, but louder. I gasped as her voice barreled through my mind. I couldn't see where Grandma actually was or the man. I just crumpled to the ground with my hands over my head and let out a wail. I would have kept screaming too, but then everything fell quiet, and the silky tone of a stranger cut in. He stared at me from his perch in the armchair, eyes bored into mine, a king overseeing his court. Then he whispered to me that all those things my grandma said were true, and if she didn't want me around, maybe I wanted to come with him, follow him. He would make sure I had whatever I wanted, that I didn't have to depend on anyone, that no one thought I was dead weight. All I had to do was take his hand. He reached out. I looked at his palm. It seemed both soft and sturdy at the same time, a welcoming haven from the rancor I'd just heard. But before I could consider taking it, I heard something. Music. It took me a minute to figure out what it was, and when I did, I smiled. Tom Jones, Green, Green Grass of Home, Grandma's favorite, playing as loud as can be. Soon as those notes hit my ears, I was able to tear my eyes away from the stranger. Grandma stood by the record player. Sweat covered her brow. Her hand was on the record needle. She was staring daggers at the young man. I could tell he was mad. His lips curled into a snarl, his eyes glinted with that fire. For a moment, I saw something horrible. It was fleeting, like one of those subliminal photos that sears into your memory, even if you don't get a good look. For a second, the man changed. Beneath his black hair, horns protruded. His skin turned slick, raw and scabby, like he'd been boiled. His fingers sharpened into talons. Seconds later, he was back to being a young man. Neat shirt, narrow tie, perfectly put together and smiling, like he'd gotten a hold of himself. But I caught it. A look at Grandma told me she had too, and we both understood what we'd seen. This was no door knocker. I mean, hell, this wasn't even a person. This was the devil. That's when the panic took over. All my instincts screamed that we needed to get out of there ASAP. And when you're an 8-year-old kid, you don't overthink an instinct like that. You just listen to it. So I ran and screamed at Grandma to do the same. But despite my intentions, I didn't get far because a hand grabbed my arm, so tight I thought the skin would break. When I looked up, I stared into the eyes of the young man, who I knew to be the devil himself. I have no idea how he got from his chair across the room to grab me, in just a split second, but there he was, peering into my face, leering. The dynamic flames flashed across his irises. The smell of his breath matched his voice, like sickly sweet nectar, so saccharine it made the bile in my stomach boil. He still wore his human face, but his hands had changed. Grotesque, dirt-clogged talons pressed into my skin. I watched blood bloom where they pierced the surface. I could hear Grandma scream at him to let me go, to stop all this, but she was a distant thrum of noise. I couldn't hear Tom Jones anymore either. It was like the devil had wrapped a soundproof bubble around us so that we could speak alone. That's when the devil told me. He'd been all around the neighborhood that night. He'd seen all manner of people, strong ones, weak ones, and he knew I was more vulnerable than most because I had desires and dreams. I was old enough to want big things and still young enough to assume I'd get them. But if I was too stupid to take what he offered, then he'd follow me. He would follow me until the end of days, haunt my every waking moment, wait till I fell asleep, then plague my dreams. He would do this till I agreed to follow him because he was Satan. He would take whoever he wanted. His nails dug deeper into my arm. He lifted his other hand and told me to take it. I winced at the pain in my arm. My eyes filled with tears. I was scared, so scared. But in spite of my terror, I was sure, however bad things were now, they'd get worse if I took his hand. I knew that because he wanted me to, really badly, which is also how I knew he couldn't force me to take it. So I said, as firmly as an 8-year-old could muster, "No, sir, I will not." The devil's eyes blazed. I could feel the heat from their fire on my face, so close to my skin that my cheeks got chapped. He kept his grip on my arm, squeezing tighter. All of a sudden, the sound of the rum rushed back in. The tick of the clock, the slow, plodding spin of the record that had run its course. The devil was back in his chair, back in his young man form. Me and Grandma on the couch, like we'd never moved at all. She grabbed me, pulled me close, said that she tried to get to me, but the devil had held her back. Then she whispered, "The devil wanted to take us. That's why he was there, to add poor damaged souls to his army of the damned, to make himself stronger." Then she looked at me and said, "Whatever happens next, however he tests us, it's all about our choices. The devil can't hurt us unless we let him." A screaming voice thundered through the room, ordering silence. Grandma and I slowly turned to look at the devil, wearing that young man's skin. Once again, Grandma kept her voice calm and level, and demanded he release us. We had rejected him. The devil waited a long time. I held my breath, not taking my eyes off his face. My heart thundered in my chest as I waited for him to decide what our fate would be. Then, he slowly shook his head.
When you think about businesses with criminally good sales, like Death Wish Coffee or everyone's favorite murder mystery star Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, sure, you think about an in-demand product, a premeditated brand and scary good marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually a business behind the business of making selling and buying simple for millions of businesses. That business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet, and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Death Wish Coffee uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/run, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/run to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/run.
Meet Tim's new Oreo Mocha Ice Caps with Oreo in every sip. Perfect for listening to the A-side, or B-side, or poolside. Order yours on the Tim's app today at participating restaurants in Canada for a limited time.
I sat there shaking from limb to limb as the devil informed us he wasn't done yet. Threats didn't work. Hearing about all he could offer didn't work. But maybe we would understand his offering if we could see it. Then he lifted a hand and snapped his fingers. All of a sudden, I wasn't in Grandma's living room anymore. Or it was just different. The couches were brand new, pristine, and expensive. Not the hand-me-tatters they used to be. Everything in the room was tasteful, blending seamlessly in color and vibe, like an interior designer had rushed through and made it sparkle. I heard the fingers snap again. I was at a restaurant, a steakhouse. I had a silk napkin tucked in my shirt, a beautifully marble ribeye on the plate in front of me. I couldn't believe it. We never went out to eat. I heard glasses clink and conversations low. I could taste the rich, buttery residue of meat on my tongue. It filled me with so much longing. My heart ached. The finger snapped again. I was suddenly blinded by flashing lights. It was some kind of event. I looked down. I was on a red carpet in a suit. I somehow knew. I was in Hollywood, and I was important. Then, someone offered me their hand. Their palm had a soft, sturdy look that felt familiar. I looked up, into the face of the young man who'd knocked on our door. The devil. He was in a tux, seamlessly blending with the glitzy hubbub around us. I'll be honest, fear didn't work on me, but aspiration kinda did. Look, I didn't mention this before, but when the devil said I had dreams, he was right. I did. Dreams I don't even think Grandma knew about, but that I'd been slowly acquiring during each and every movie of the week. It wasn't fame, you see, but it was success. I wanted to be somebody, to carve out a life where I could create immersive stories and worlds that some other kid could disappear into. And the devil was offering that to me. Exactly that. But it all seemed so far away. I mean, I was 8. I had a lifetime ahead of me, right? As I was mulling all this over, I heard the finger snap again. This time I was back in Grandma's living room, sitting on the couch, alone, facing the TV. Next to me was a bowl of popcorn. A second later, the devil appeared in front of me, with a remote dangling from his fingertips. He offered his hand and said, "Give me the remote, and I could watch all the movies I wanted if I'd accept his help." I can't explain it. Why this offering stood out, stronger and more seductive than all the rest. Maybe it was because it just felt so innocent. I'd already earned it, you see. I'd waited a full week for Kolchak. I deserved to watch it. As I stared at that remote, I was filled with longing, stronger than I'd ever experienced. Made me dizzy. It was like I was a fly stuck in honey, weighted down with desire. All I wanted was to turn on that television and let my eyes feast on my favorite movie. I didn't even know I was doing it, but I was. I lifted my hand, fingers extended, eager to take what the devil was offering me. But right before I grabbed it, something stopped me. Another hand appeared right beside it. This one was softer, wrinkled, and old, but tender. It was a hand I knew better than most. Grandma's. I stared at the two palms, knowing I was choosing between something I coveted and something I loved. I wanted both of them, but there was something about the devil's palm. A force of sorts, felt like a magnet, pulling me towards it. Everything in my body was screaming at me to take his hand, to claim what I desired most. But the thing was, as much as I love my movie of the week, I love Grandma more. Because disappearing into a new world wasn't nearly as exciting if I didn't have Grandma by my side. So even though my body wanted me to go with the devil, my heart, that was all Grandma. So I took her hand, and a great rush of air filled my ears. Grandma's arms wrapped around me, holding me tight. She stroked my head. She didn't tell me what the devil had shown her. She never did. All she said was that she was proud. Human choice. That's how you fight the devil. Each time he tested them, they chose each other. I heard her throat clear. The devil stood by the foyer, bathed in shadow. I couldn't see him clearly. The lights around him were off. But I could see his silhouette. The horns, the broad shoulders, the spindly fingernails. In his too sweet voice, he asked, "Are you sure?" I felt Grandma's hand in mine, but it was me who spoke. I said, "Yes, we're sure." And so I watched his long, unearthly fingers raise up and snap. Suddenly, I was looking forward at the television, just as the opening credits for Kolchak began. I glanced at the clock and watched its hand hit 9 p.m. I was sure at least an hour had gone by, but really, no time had passed at all. Grandma was beside me, with a bowl of popcorn. She looked equally confused, but I could see tears in her eyes, the residual sweat from her previous fear on her upper lip. That's how I knew. Whatever had just happened to both of us. Then she smiled, offered me the bowl. I dug my hands into that buttery, salty treat and snuggled into my grandma's shoulder, then let the world of Coal Shack pull me in. It's a night that lives in the recesses of my memory, a confusing recollection, because even now I'm not sure if it was real. The devil was with me for what felt like hours. Then he was gone, with no sign he'd been there at all. Except there was some indication he'd been around. See, we had a neighbor who was struggling, just like us, a single dad who couldn't afford much. But the next day I saw him wearing a fancy leather jacket, getting into a brand new car, some luxury deal. Grandma always treated him with suspicion after that, because if the devil had indeed canvassed the whole neighborhood that night, we can be sure not everyone said no. In the end, it doesn't matter. If it happened, if it didn't, because it affected me either way. It taught me a lesson. I had Grandma, and she had me. Grandma's not here anymore, but I love her all the same. I try to think about that when I'm tempted to make selfish decisions or go down a questionable path. I think of Grandma, because when you have that kind of special love, the devil doesn't stand a chance. Problem is, not everyone has that. Some people are susceptible to the devil's tricks, and if that's you, you better hope he doesn't come knocking on your door. That was the end of the story, but I'm not done with you yet. Wondering what happened next? That stays between the Run Fool community and me. If you're not too scared to join us, head over to joinrunfool.com today. That's JoinRunfool.com. You can sign up for longer, scarier episodes, ad-free listening, and exclusive Ask Me Anything sessions. Sign up now at joinrunfool.com. Don't walk. Run, fool!